So, what is your last name? Spell it, first name and middle initial, please.
Last name is Huckstep, Huckstep. First name Gary, middle name Scott.
Okay, Mr. Huckstep, what year were you born in?
I was born in January 17th, 1966.
Where did you live, and when did you become a part of the military?
I lived in Quincy, Illinois, and I joined the military in 1984.
And what year did you graduate from high school, and what year?
I graduated high school in 1984 as well.
Where did you go to high school at?
Quincy Senior High School in Quincy, Illinois.
So when you were in high school, did you ever think about going into the military, or did it just happen one day?
No, I always had an inclination or whatever to join the military. I was always interested in it as a child, read a lot of military books, did military models, and we had family members who were also in the military. My father was in the Navy. His brother was also in the Navy, and then their uncle before, which would have been my great uncle, was in the Navy as well. And his father during World War II was too old for the military, but he served in the Illinois militia. They kind of did stuff on the home front or whatever during World War II. And then my uncle on my mom's side, her brother, he was in the military as well. So long tradition of military service in that. And like I said, I always wanted to join the military. And then another reason was I didn't think after graduating high school I was ready for college. Wasn't ready for it, didn't feel right yet. But also in the military too, they would pay for college too if you signed up for that.
So why did you choose the military? Because you said you had Navy and other armed forces. Why the military?
Why the Army, you mean?
Oh, the Army, yeah,
the Army is, I like the Army. It's just, again, as a kid, I thought they had cooler uniforms and did the stuff compared to the Navy, and I just never, I don't know, being on a ship is just not my idea. I'd much rather take my chances on the land and everything. And like I said, I couldn't see myself wearing the Navy uniforms.
So how did you get into the service?
At the time I enlisted, they had what's called the delayed entry program. I made the decision, I believe it was in March of 1984, to go into the military. So at the time, went to a recruiter, chose what job I wanted to do, which was military police, and then it went down to what they called the MEP station, military entrance processing station. Went down there, went through, signed my contract, and then they could delay it, I think up to 6 months or so, and they gave me locked in a date then when I would report to basic training.
Okay. Where did you do your basic training at?
I did my basic training at Fort McClellan, Alabama, which is where they trained the military police school, which is no longer the bases. They closed the base years ago, and that's
So it is said that in basic training that an individual is broken and a serviceman is created. Would you agree with this statement?
Yeah, I don't think, the term broken is it's more, they stress teamwork, the individual, where you always think of yourself as I, me, myself, I, doing it where, it's in order to operate effectively in the military, you have to work as a team. And obey orders, and times they tell you, well, no, you don't think, well, you do, but in order to be successful or complete the mission, you gotta do what you're told, because every person is an essential piece of it. If one person doesn't do their job, it can affect the entire mission and everything.
So what do you remember about your basic training that you can still remember today?
Oh, I can remember quite a bit. I know when like I said, I actually went in to basic training in think it was August 29th of 1984. I left Quincy, Illinois. My dad took me down to the recruiting station where my mom, kissed her goodbye, and she was crying, and was gonna miss, and I was a little sad too. But I got on the bus, and then we went down. The bus took me to St. Louis, where to the MEP station, where we checked in, and they had us stay overnight at a hotel. Not the best hotel, best part of the area of St. Louis at that time. So with all the other recruits and people that were going out to the various bases, and then the next morning took an afternoon or whatever, took an airplane, flew down to from St. Louis down to Anniston, Alabama, where the MP school, or Fort McClellan is. And remember getting there later in the evening, and we processed in, and that was kind of you're in a big Bay Area, with just 50 other troops, and I just remember tired, getting to sleep at that night, and then all of a sudden, like at 4 o'clock in the morning, you hear noise. It was where all the other base, the troops were out doing their PT, singing cadence, and I was like, what the heck? So eventually, then got on a bus, and then they took us to the company, which was Echo 12, I remember that, where we would check in and meet our drill sergeants for the first time. So it's like, what you say, you get on the bus, and as soon as the bus pulls up to the area, all of a sudden you see all the drill sergeants there, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what we've heard about. And all of a sudden, the drill sergeant runs in and yells at you, hey, get off my bus, and it's total confusion. Some people can do it, and others were just like totally lost. So you run out, get in line, screaming, yelling at you, trying to whip you into shape. So from the very get-go, they're trying to instill you. So got in. I don't know if you want me back and go a lot more. Got into our company, and then we started in processing, where they would take us to get our equipment, uniforms, boots, and all that. It's just like an assembly line. You're going down, and their size here, throwing you this. And then you get your hair cut, all on the floor. Take it all. And you had to pay for it too.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. So it's like, what? But then there's always the jokers that, can you just, I like a nice little short haircut, and the barbers would mess with them, then give them a skunk stripe, or start taking the middle and making fun with that. And then I know we then went back to our company and meet our drill sergeants, the ones who were for our platoon with that.
So how long was your basic training?
Our basic training was for the MP school, or the MPs. We did our basic training and our advanced training for MP school all at one location. So for ours, it was about 4 months. So from August, and then we graduated from MP school. I believe it was like about the week before Christmas, or maybe like the 20th of December. And because our training, in order to get us done by Christmas, rather than get have like a couple weeks left and then come back after Christmas, we trained basically 6 days a week, where the other training would have like the Saturday and Sunday off. We trained all the way through the whole course, 6 days a week, and then maybe got a Sunday off, or more relaxing, if you will, on that.
So would you have preferred that, like having 6 days instead of 5, so then you could just get it over with?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Get it done with and get back. So I was able, to get back home for Christmas there. And
so you were able to go home after basic training, or
right, yeah,
sent off immediately afterwards?
Right, yeah. We were able to just come home for Christmas, or was it right after Christmas, or maybe it was Christmas, and I think we had maybe about 12 days or so, and then in January, it's like January 3rd or 4th, and then had to report to the airport to go to my next duty station there.
And like you Did you say that like your basic and advanced training were like together all at one time, or did you
Yes.
have to go to more after that?
It was all together is what they called one station unit training. So where like some MOSs or jobs in the military, they would do the basic training, say at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then they would go to another base for a special school, like for a clerk, a truck driver, or infantry. No, infantry's at the same place, but for us, yeah, we were at the same location at Fort McClellan there.
So, do you agree that you were put in the right position when you were sent off for advanced training?
Yeah, because that was the way the military had. You could choose your position, job, provided you met the qualifications. Through the ASVAB testing, met the scores. Criminal record, because as an MP, you couldn't have a criminal record or any infractions, with it. So it was pretty good.
And what skills do you remember being taught during like your advanced training?
We did law enforcement training. As an MP, learned how to, apprehend suspects, learn how to fill out military paperwork, fire various weapons, and do, because with the military police, they had several different types of job duties in addition to what we consider police law enforcement work. There was also the division MP companies had like support where they would do convoy security, enemy prisoner of war training, also physical security where working, protecting sensitive sites, and which is eventually, the company that I went to was a physical security company.
So, what was your job when you first began in the military?
Again, first job was the military police, and my first duty station, I was sent to West Germany. Well, at that time it was called the Federal Republic of Germany, or West Germany, because there was still East Germany and West Germany. The Iron Curtain was up, so it was at the time during the Cold War where the Soviet Union was our, I guess, main adversary at the time. And so going there, one thing unique about it is that way back in basic training, as soon as we got there, I remember one time put us all in this hall and they read out these names, blah blah, X person, and said my name, please stand up. And they said right away, this was probably like the first 2 weeks of basic training, said, you're going to Germany. I was like, what? Usually people didn't get their orders until the end, but they were doing what's called a package platoon. So all, I think like 35, 40 folks in our basic training, we were all together going to, once we were done with basic training, going to West Germany in this group. So it was kind of thing they haven't been, I guess, working on or doing new in the military. So it was kind of neat, all the individuals that, people got to know in the military are, basic training that we went to the same duty station in Germany unit there.
So what was happening in the world when you were in the military? Were there any wars going on? What was?
In addition, I guess, I can go back later, I did kind of two stints in the military. The first one here, my initial as a soldier, was it was the height of the Cold War, or with the Soviet Union, the communist bloc countries. So in addition to that, there was also in Germany too, there was terrorism was kind of big, not the kind of, I guess kind of, but not what we experience right now. This was more what we called radical left-wing terrorists, where in Germany at the time there was a group called, there were several groups in Europe, the Red Army faction, or in Germany they were called the Baader-Meinhof gangs. So they were always targeting military targets in Germany, so we had to deal with that as well.
So from your time in the service, could you give 4 or 5 things that you remember vividly even today?
Quite a bit. I remember Germany, the times in Germany, like it was yesterday, it was impressionable on me as a young person. I was by the time I got to Germany, I was 19 years old. So just the camaraderie with the people that I served with, and even 30 plus years ago, we still keep in touch now, especially with social media, Facebook and everything, groups, we keep in touch there. Just the times, the places, things that I've done with them. I think too, with the military, the camaraderie, just seeing places, going around again, how many young people get a chance to spend a couple years in a different country and live and see that, and just a lot of things. And then after I was stationed in Germany for a couple years, then I got orders to go to Washington, D.C., or Fort Myer, Virginia, which was a different type. It was more of the law enforcement type job that you see. We did patrols, did road speeding tickets, and those things. And there at Fort Myer, which was which was a different experience, where all the top brass in the military, so all the Joint Chiefs of Staff from the Navy, Air Force, and Army lived right on base there. So we did work with that. And then I also remember one time, we got to work with the Secret Service with when Vice President Bush, when the Challenger shuttle, that happened, I think like in '85, they were dedicating a memorial in Arlington, and so I remember, we were there for helping back, security, so it was real close to Vice President Bush at the time, so that was kind of another memorable,
cool,
memorable event with that.
So, like you mentioned the people that you served with. Do you still remember some of their names, like the first people that you got to meet and come?
Oh yeah. One of the first people that I met way back in St. Louis, he was actually from Muscoota, Illinois, Dennis Wisniewski. And we met there, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to Fort McClellan." It's like, "Oh, same here." And luck would have it, we ended up in the the same platoon and going to Germany. But yeah, a lot of people I can still remember their names, and like I said, we keep in touch through social media.
So what kind of impressions do you think they made on you? What did you learn from them?
I learned there's a lot of different personalities in the world, so I think even some of the people you were really good friends with, had your own little cliques within there, but I think everybody would work as a team on it. They would have your back no matter, even if you didn't particularly care for them, but when it came to training or doing your job, you knew they had your back, and they knew that you had their back, to do. Okay.
How long did you serve in the military overall?
Like I said, I did a couple, and I can talk a little bit more. I did 3 years from 1984 to 1987 when I was enlisted in the active duty Army. Then I came out, went to college for 4 years, and then eventually went on to get my master's degree. And then at that time, after in 1998, then I joined the Missouri National Guard, and at that time, I was enlisted, but then went through officer candidate school to become a commissioned officer, and that was from 98 to 2004. But in that time, not only with the Guard, but then there was 9/11. So it was kind of ironic. I started after I went through officer candidate school in the Guard and everything. Then after 9/11, I started my officer basic course at Fort Leonard Wood, MP officer basic course. I started that on the Sunday after 9/11, so that was kind of totally changed everything with that. And then once I got done with officer basic course, then I came back home shortly after my daughter was born in January, and then that March I was sent to Italy for a month. Our company, they, in order to backfill for the units that were going to Afghanistan, and just, you know, on active duty, they needed military police to fill in for the active duty ones who went off. So we spent a month in Italy augmenting some of that, and then came back home, and then later that year, which was 2002, then they were starting to build up, you know, the Iraqi issues with Iraq. And then at that point, near the end of the year, we were, a lot of units were being called up, especially, you know, that not only active duty, but a lot of the Guard and Reserve units were being activated to being deployed. And with our company, we, near the end of the year, it was going back and forth, where our company, we may be going to Iraq, they said for some weeks, and then next thing, no, your unit's gonna go to Kosovo. And then go to Iraq, and they just adjusted, and then finally we found that our unit was going to be deployed to Kosovo for a year. And we deployed in, I think, March of 2003. We ended up going to Fort Stewart, Georgia for a few months training and everything. Then we went a month down to Fort Polk, Louisiana, at the JRTC, Joint Readiness Training Center, I believe that's what it's called, to prep. And then eventually ended up going to Kosovo for, we were at that rotation, I think it was called Kosovo Rotation 5 Alpha. And what was kind of unique about it was the first rotation, again, because of the Iraq issues, a lot of the active duty. It was the first time that all the U.S. military units, it was led by National Guard, under National Guard troops with that. And so deployed for there, and then ended up coming back in February of 2004.
So what was the reason for you getting out of the Army?
At my first time enlisted, it was just my enlisted time. You know, I'd signed up for 3 years. It had, I met my contract, and at that point I was like, nah, I didn't think, you know, making a career out of the military, you know, I wanted to go to college. So that was, excuse me, one of the reasons why, you know, I got out at that point. Then after my time in the National Guard and everything was time after being deployed, you know, with my daughter when I first left, she was 1 year old, and then after shortly came back, we were going to have another child, and it was just, you know, with my wife and everything, it's kind of, you know, need to stay home, man.
Yeah. So, what do you remember most about your time in the service? Like, what's something that really sticks with you?
I think with any time with the military, it was just the people that you meet, that you served with, you know, the camaraderie, you know, couldn't have asked for a better group of people to work with. And like I said, you know, 30 plus years later, some of us still keep in touch, you know, through social media. And eventually, I think we're, you know, as we get older, trying to maybe meet up as a group, a reunion or something. But I think, you know, it's just kind of the types of people that you meet in the military.
So what qualities did you believe you carried from the military to where you are today?
I think discipline is a key quality. I know, you know, being disciplined, doing my job, getting it done right. Attention to detail is a big thing. Always being punctual. The military made sure you were punctual, and I'm sure my family could agree with that. Sometimes get on, you know, I'm always getting on, hey, we gotta be here at this time, blah, blah, blah. And I think as well as, you know, in my current position as a supervisor, the skills that I learned in the military, leadership skills, you know, how to treat your troops or the people that you work with, I think I've carried those over into my civilian career.
So if you could go back, would you do anything different from the way you did it?
No, I don't think.
You like the way everything turned out?
I think it would. Yeah, maybe, if I know, thinking back now, maybe if, with the service kind of in the guard and in that, maybe tried to stay a little longer. But I mean, if circumstances were different, I might have been able to, and retire from the military. But no, I think it was pretty good.
So you said that you were in Kosovo. What kind of stuff did you do when you were in Kosovo? Just like police stuff, or?
Yeah, for in Kosovo at the time, it's called what they call peacekeeping operations. So with the jobs that our MP company did, we had 4 platoons. 3 of the platoons did patrolling and everything, what they call outside the wire, or in their area of operation, where they did peacekeeping duties, making sure the civilians and everything, that the peace agreement and everything was being kept, and they were assisting the United Nations forces that were there, help trying to set up a police force, the civilians, so we would support them. But my platoon that I was in charge of, our job was actually to do law enforcement for the bases there, Camp Bondsteel and Camp Monteith. So again, we did, as a lieutenant, I was kind of running what they call in the military, instead of police office, called the provost marshal's office. So I think it was the base provost marshal. So we would do, law enforcement issues, make sure, speeding, because we also had civilians work there, speeding, making sure that the soldiers were abiding by the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or the laws. So we had, you name it, we had everything, assaults, people were drinking, there was General Order No. 1, no alcohol, but troops, they will find alcohol wherever they can. And so once in a while you would have to deal with some troops like that, issues that insubordination, or they would deal with, and a lot of times too, we had on the base, we also get the other foreign nations that were in our area of operation coming in, a lot of times shoplifting. For the PX, it was like every day somebody, mostly not U.S. military, but the other ones, someone would get, we'd be called down to someone had shoplifted or something like that. Other issues, we dealt with sometimes, dealing with some troops, had, were, a couple of them got in trouble, or, couldn't handle the situation, and we had one individual that, one of the base, Camp Monteith, committed suicide, so we had to respond to that and work with the CID and process the crime scene in that. So again, yeah, that was the platoon that was our main mission, was for that.
So like you said, you've been to like a lot of different countries and places. Like, if you had to choose, which one would be like your favorite out of all the ones that you got to?
Get to Germany. Absolutely, Germany was an awesome place, and excellent, beautiful country, and just as our family and background, family from Germany, so I always wanted to go there. And at the time when I was stationed there in the 80s, you could, the dollar was very strong, so, and the exchange rate, you could live like a king, really, you could take, for $10, you could go out and have a night on the town, have a few beers, have a nice dinner, and everything. But Germany was really, because it has a lot of history, do that. And we, also, when we were in Germany, we did a trip too, with a tour. We actually got to go to England on that. So, one of the sergeants organized a group, to a tour to go over. And we actually took a bus all the way over to England, across the channel, and got to see that.
So like you said, you'd want to get back together with the people, but have you gotten back together with them, or do you just want to?
We haven't. I haven't. I haven't got together face to face, but like I said, now with social media, Facebook, and everything, you can keep up. And I would like to, see if we could get a reunion together with the people, and just see how everybody's doing, and catch up on old times.
So I know you said this earlier about like with the things you remember vividly. Is there any other things that you really remember that you want people to know too about the Army? Like something that maybe they don't always tell you, but you have to find out on your own.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The hurry up and wait. That was one of the things that drove me crazy. Is especially being enlisted. You're all right. Hey, everybody, hurry up! We got to be here at this point. To start off or in your trainings or whatever. Yeah, you get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and nothing happens for a couple hours, or you finally get to move out like 4 hours later. And that's what it killed me. Just hated that. It's like I got a better use of my time, but no, it was just a very good experience. And I think, plus too, it made me more independent, as, you had the Army to take care of you, but, your mother and dad weren't there. And especially at that point where, my first station was Europe, so I'm thousands of miles away from my family. And at that time, we didn't have social media, the internet wasn't around, so we had to, the old school way, write letters. Mm-hmm. So I wrote letters, or I would talk to my parents maybe once a month, where the base I was at in Germany, we were a very small base. Though they have to go outside the base, put a couple marks in the phone booth out there, call home to the United States, say, hey, because my parents, they could call our company, the phone that we had within our company, but we couldn't call out. But they had the number, so I'd call long distance from the payphone, say, hey, call the number, and then go back to the building and wait for them to call and talk. And so
do you think the service is for everybody, or is it only for?
I don't think it's for everybody. Some people are just, don't like the getting up early and having people tell you what to do. I think anybody could do it if they put their mind to it, but there's some that, they're just, their personalities, and the Army will do that. Some people we had, not in our platoon, but in others, that if they just couldn't adapt, whether, I don't know, they did it on purpose or they really couldn't adapt to military life, they would chapter them out and discharge them. But I think the military, it's good for anybody to really, everybody, if you wanted to experience it, you would learn a lot. It's a totally different mindset, but it helps you cherish what you have at home and your regular life. So appreciate civilian life more than with the military.
So do you ever wonder what would have happened, like if you would have stayed instead of leaving when you did?
Yeah, at times, but I think it would have been different. Oh yeah, my life, who knows? It would be a totally different life. Wouldn't have met my wife. And had the kids that I have. But I think, when I was young at that point, and just in order to raise a family, the military, it's a lot of, it's difficult, especially because with the military, like every couple years, 3 to 4 years, you're moving to a new duty station. And I could just see on some family members how that was stressful and caused some issues, and I just at that young age, I couldn't see raising a family in that environment. Maybe it could have been successful, but I just seeing some of the things, some people could do it, but I just couldn't bring it on myself to want to raise a family in the military like that. But
so do you think that, like you said, you have kids, but do you think you'd want them to go into any of the armed forces?
I would say if they wanted to, I would back them 100%. I wouldn't force them or say you have to go. I mean, again, it's forcing someone to go in the military. You have to want to do it. Where like with I did, and now we have an all volunteer Army. I would support them 100% if they go into it, and I'd be there to answer any questions they have.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about before we finish?
No, I just think, at the time in the '80s there, it's totally different from how it is now, but I guess you can start to see maybe it's, as they say, the pendulum where it swings back and forth, where, in the '80s, the Cold War, the big adversaries, Soviet Union, the communist countries, and then once the wall fell, then, kind of terrorism was the issue now we see, in the Middle East, but it kind of seems where that pendulum is going back, where you're starting to see the buildup again of Russia, China, where more of what they call like nation states are the main issues now. It's kind of swinging back towards that. So, but I wouldn't change for a bit what I did in the military. It was my privilege and honor to serve in the military. It was something I always wanted to do. I don't regret it one bit, and I think everyone somehow or whatever should contribute or do something to support their country, whether it's the Peace Corps, the military, or other kind of service projects. I think it's very important to do that. And today, some people are still do that, but yeah, I don't know. It just seems that it's kind of chaotic, where some people don't really respect.
Yeah, they don't think country is important.
Don't think country, is important, and we bring that on ourselves too. Just how crazy things have been lately.
Well, if you don't have anything else, thank you for coming in.
Right. Thank you.